Hey everyone, Palumbo here, and in this video I am going to show you how to add menu items to your Google Sheets for quick and easy access to the tools that you've created using AppScript. Now let's say there's something that you frequently do every time you're working on a spreadsheet, like maybe making a header to show who the author of the sheet is and when it was created. It doesn't take that much work to do it manually every time, but you can code it once and have it available as a predefined function for all of your sheets. It's quick, it's easy, so let's jump right in and I'm going to show you how to do it. So step one is, let's go ahead and open up a new sheet. And then we are going to go and we're going to open up the AppScript editor. And in this instance, I am actually not going to use the my function that the editor gives us. I'm going to be creating two of my own functions. And the first one is the function that's actually going to put the menu item on the spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and do function. I'm going to call this one create menu. It's not going to take any parameters or arguments. And I'm going to create a variable called menu. So let menu equal, and we're going to do spreadsheet app and get UI, and we need to say create menu. And inside the parentheses for the create menu command that I'm giving it is where I'm actually going to name what that menu is going to be. And in this case, I'm just going to call it automation. So now we have a menu item, at least in code we do. We need to add items underneath it. So we already have the variable menu. So I can just say menu, add item. And here we have to give two values or two parameters. And the first one is, what is the name of that item? So when you click on automation, what are you going to be presented with? And I'm going to call this one add header. And then we need to say what function it's going to call when you click on it. And so I'm going to create a function here in just a moment called create header. So we've created the top level menu item automation. We've put something underneath it called add header. Now we just have to add one more line of code, which actually puts it on the spreadsheet. And so that's going to be menu, add to UI. Open and close parentheses, semicolon. Now what I'm actually going to do at this point is I'm going to save and run my code. And I just want to make sure that that menu item gets added properly. The first time you run your code when you're adding a menu item, really the first time you run your AppScript period, it can take a little bit of time. So looks like it successfully completed. Let's go back and look at our spreadsheet. We now have a new menu item called automation. And when we click on it, we see we have an option here to add header. If I were to click on this, it would do nothing because I haven't created the function that it's going to call. But let's go do that right now. So I'm going to create a new function called create header. And we are going to start off, and the way I normally do is I'm going to create a couple of just really basic variables here that are going to help me work with my spreadsheet. So I'm going to let SS for spreadsheet equal spreadsheet app, get active spreadsheet, open and close parentheses, semicolon, and then let CS for current sheet equal spreadsheet, get active sheet. Fantastic. Now we need to define our range. So we need to tell the spreadsheet where we want that header to go. So I'm going to create another variable called let header range equal, and I'm going to use the get range function here. And there are a number of ways that you can get ranges. And I can't reiterate this enough. There is no shame in Googling. Nobody expects you to memorize the hundreds of different functions that exist in AppScript. So I'm going to Google AppScript get range. Normally it's the first option that comes up. And to make my life a little easier, I'm going to hit Command F. I'm going to go in here and type in get range. I have 5 different options. Let's take a look at these. So if we go to the first one, this is a get range that takes 2 parameters, a row and a column. and it basically returns the range with the top left cell at the given coordinates. So more or less, this gives you one cell. We want to do more than that. The next option takes 3 parameters. We give it a row number, a column number, and a number of rows. We're getting warmer, but not quite there. If we look at the third option, it is get range that takes 4 parameters. The row number, the column number, where it's going to start, and then the number of rows down and the number of columns over. So this actually looks like something that I would want to use for this particular function. It returns the range with the top left cell of the given coordinates with the given number of rows and columns. So I think this is going to work. And if we look down here, the parameters, it is all numbers or integers. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say get range. Now I'm going to look at my spreadsheet and I'm most likely just going to want my header to go across this top row and just go enough columns to where it is going to fill this entire sheet the way that I'm looking at it right now. So if you're not familiar with the way AppScript deals with rows and columns, obviously the rows are numerical. The columns, even though they say ABC, for AppScript, it still looks at it numerically. So this would be 1, 2, 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my get range. And so the first one is row. So it's going to be row 1. And I'm going to start with column 1 as well. And I only want to go 1 row down. So that's another 1. And let's say I want to go 15 columns over. And I did forget something here. I need to specify that this is going to be on my current sheet is where I want this range to be defined. Okay, so now we have that. We've specified where we want that header to go. We need to start actually figuring out, we need to start formatting what the header is going to look like. And the first thing I want to do is I actually want to merge all those cells together. So I can do header range dot merge, and that will merge them all together. And then I need to set a value in there too. So I want me as the author. So let's do header range dot set value. And in quote, I'm going to put created by Joseph Palumbo on. And now I want to put a date. But I always want it to be whatever today's date is. So we actually have to go create another variable, which is always going to hold today's date. So I'm actually going to go back up here to this first little chunk of code, and I'm going to create a new variable called date. And creating dates can be a little weird. Full disclosure, this took me a little bit to kind of get the hang of, but once you've done it a few times, it'll just become second nature. So the way you're going to create a date or a dynamic date is you're going to use the utilities function. So utilities, and I'm going to do format date. And then I'm going to say I want a new date, and date is all capitalized with an open and closed parentheses. You can specify your time zone. Just to make this easy, I'm going to go ahead and put GMT. You can always Google to actually figure out, and everything is done in typically GMT plus or minus. So if you don't know what your time zone is in Greenwich Mean Time, relative to Greenwich Mean Time, you can always go and Google that and just put this as your value in this part of the function. And then I'm going to put how I want the date to be put out. And once again, there are a lot of options. And this is something that I would once again say you're better off Googling it to really understand exactly all the different options that you have. But in this case, I know I just want a simple date starting with the month, the day, and actually this does need to be in quotes. So month, day, and year. And we can go ahead and close that out. So I now have a variable called date and my header range set value created by Joseph Palumbo on. And then I'm just going to add that date variable to it and close that with a semicolon. So far we've defined the range. We've merged those cells together. We have set the value created by Joseph Palumbo on today's date. And now I kind of want to make it look a certain way. So first of all, I want the text to be centered. And there's actually a really easy way to do that. So header range dot set horizontal alignment. And it takes a very simple argument of center. Could be left or right, but in this case, I want it to be centered. And then I also want it to look different. I want a black background with white text. So once again, AppScript makes that very easy to do. I'm just going to say header range, and I'm going to do set background. And I want my background to be black. And in this instance, I'm actually going to string a couple of commands together, and then I'm going to put set font color, and I'm going to say my font color is going to be white. All right, so let's just review what we've done under create header. So we grabbed the spreadsheet, we grabbed the current sheet. We have a line of code here that will actually grab today's date and give it to us with just month-day-year. We've defined the range that we want, essentially that first row all across the top going 15 columns over. We're going to merge them together. We're going to set the value of those cells to say created by Joseph Palumbo on this date, on today's date. We want that text to be centered, and we want the background to be black and the font color to be white. So let's see if this works. We're going to go ahead and save the project. We're also going to run the project, and I have to now review permissions and say, yep, it's okay. I'm allowed to run this code. It executed successfully. So let's actually go back to our spreadsheet. So notice it didn't do anything. When I ran the code, it wasn't actually running that function, that create header function directly. It basically just stored it in this automation menu. So if I click on automation, I click on add header, and there we go. It grabbed the first row, first column, then went 15 columns over. It put in my text here, created by Joseph Palumbo on January 1st, 2022. Happy New Year's Day, everyone. It centered it across all of the merged cells. It set the background color as black and the text is white. And at this point, I can actually go and start working on my spreadsheet. And what I can do is I can either copy and paste this code into a number of different future spreadsheets. And I've actually done that before. I've created my own menu items with a bunch of different menus that I have, or a bunch of different functions that I've created that I find to be very useful. It's pretty simple and easy just to paste it, run it, save it, run it, and have it available. One thing that you can also do, you can do it as a deployment, which makes this available to your organization. It makes this available to all your future sheets. That's going to be a different video where I talk about that. But for right now, I think this is a really good start to learn about creating menus that are going to be in your spreadsheet, and then how to actually put functions and commands inside those menus that are going to be useful for you. Now, I hope this video was useful. In fact, if you have any questions, please comment below. If there's anything you'd like to see, once again, put a comment below. And obviously, if this helped you, if you got anything out of this, I'd really appreciate a like. And there's going to be plenty more videos coming, so feel free to subscribe. And hopefully we can learn AppScript together and make our lives just that much easier. Thank you so much.